Described by the Doctor as the cleverest Dalek ever, Dalek Sec is perhaps one of the most interesting, important, and most notably tragic Dalek characters that we have ever seen in Doctor Who so far. Initially a Dalek commander as ruthless and pragmatic as any other, Dalek Sec was selected by the Dalek Emperor to be the leader of the Cult of Skaro, due to his inventive tactics used against the mechanoids on the planet Magella, and was granted enhanced metallurg armour and the ability to imagine to a degree beyond that of any other Dalek. Sec joined with the other members of the Cult of Skaro to escort the Genesis Ark out of the Time War using a void ship, and they emerged on Earth as the last 4 Daleks in existence following the Time War, save for the millions of Daleks they had contained in the Genesis Ark. Sec intended on using these Daleks to rebuild their empire, and was horrified to discover that the Dalek Emperor had actually survived the war but was later killed by Rose Tyler. After discovering that the Cybermen were also on Earth, Sec was confronted by the Doctor, who lectured the Dalek leader on the Daleks' trapped and pitiable status as stunted creatures who can never feel, arguing that Daleks were sealed inside their casings from birth to death, and this is why they are so incredibly angry all the time. They are aware of the fact that there are fundamental aspects of life that they can never experience.
Inside your casing, not feeling anything, ever. From birth to death, locked inside a cold metal cage, completely alone. That explains your voice. No wonder you scream.
Sec initially shrugs this off, and after a brief confrontation with the Cybermen, who caught the Daleks off guard but were later all exterminated, the Genesis Ark was activated, allowing Sec and the other cult members to transport the device outside. Upon opening, the Genesis Ark deployed wave after wave of Dalek squadrons onto the humans and Cybermen, and Dalek Sec gave his new army the command to exterminate all life forms on the planet.
Exterminate all life forms below! Exterminate!
However, the Doctor was able to open the tear in reality created by the Cult of Skaro's void ship, which began to pull all the Daleks into the space between the Doctor's universe and the Cybermen's universe. Sec and the other Cult of Skaro members were able to escape using an emergency temporal shift, but their army had been totally destroyed. To make matters worse for Sec and the cult, the shift had deposited them on Earth in the late 1930s, a time period that did not allow them access to advanced technology, and the shift had also used up the majority of the cult's power, meaning they could not use it again. Stranded and low on power, the cult assessed the area they had ended up in, Manhattan, and devised a means of hijacking the local power structure in order to create a base. Using a particularly ruthless foreman named Diagoras, the cult hijacked the construction of the Empire State Building, establishing a base beneath the site where the tower was being constructed. There, Sec created a laboratory and began a series of experiments to attempt to grow new Dalek embryos. However, these all failed. On the orders of Dalek Sec, the cult members began to kidnap humans from Hooverville, and using horrific Dalek genetics technology, transform the unlucky victims into a small army of pig slaves, omnivorous and obedient servants with a limited lifespan, who the cult then used to begin kidnapping other humans to use as part of the last resort for survival devised by Sec, the final experiment. Now, before we discuss the final experiment, it's worth taking stock of the personal experience that Dalek Sec has had up until this point, which leads him down the radical path of the final experiment and, ultimately, to a tragic end. Since being selected as leader of the Cult of Skaro, Sec had been presented with several distinct examples of Dalek failure: the destruction of their species during the Time War, the subsequent death of the so-called God of all Daleks, the complete loss of his army to the Void, and now the Daleks' complete inability to repopulate due to their genetically engineered construction.
If we are supreme, why are we not victorious?
It is at this point that the Dalek commander began to have doubts about the Daleks' nature, and used his enhanced imagination to think of a better way that exists outside of the Daleks' programming, something that was unthinkable to other Daleks. Sec reasoned that the greatest resource of planet Earth was its people, the human race, due to their knack for survival. Disregarding the Dalek dogma of purity and supremacy, Sec devised a plan to hybridize himself with a human and use his resulting hybrid DNA to create a new species, fusing human and Dalek and combining the best aspects of both to make the ultimate species. Using Diagoras, the cult altered the Empire State Building plans to include a spire designed to attract the gamma radiation from an imminent solar flare, and planned to use this energy to reanimate the empty shells of humans they had kidnapped to create their new species. Despite protests from Daleks Thay and Jast, Dalek Sec then fused with Diagoras to create the human-Dalek hybrid. After emerging from his casing, Sec once again encountered the Doctor, and declared that he was not only Dalek in human form, but that he could also feel the anger, hatred, aggression, and genius for war that he had wanted from humanity. However, Sec quickly began to realise that he had assimilated more from Diagoras than just human pragmatism, as he also began to feel emotions as well. For the first time, Sec could truly feel as an individual. He ordered the cult and the pig slaves to pursue and capture the Doctor, and authorized an attack on Hooverville. But he was genuinely moved by a speech given by the town's leader, Solomon, who Sec respected for his courage. The hybrid was shocked when Khan ruthlessly gunned down Solomon, and this caused him to once again begin to question the Dalek way, this time questioning not only their physicality, but their philosophy too. Once the Doctor turned himself over to the Daleks in order to protect the people of Hooverville, Sec explained to him that the priorities of the final experiment had now changed. He wanted to create human Daleks with a greater proportion of human DNA, in order to grant them the ability to show mercy and feel a wider range of emotions, denouncing the ideas of their creator Davros and distancing them further from the Daleks.
Removing the emotions makes you stronger. That's what your creator thought all those years ago.
He was wrong.
However, the remaining members of the Cult of Skaro found this to be intolerable and staged a coup against Sec. While the Doctor assisted Sec in his plan, the cult members secretly worked to undermine it, replacing the human Dalek DNA with DNA of pure Dalek origin, ensuring that the new species would consist not of human Dalek hybrids, but pure Dalek soldiers. After the betrayal of the cult members was revealed to Sec, he became enraged and demanded that the other cult members obey him, but they no longer saw him as a Dalek and declared that he had lost his authority, appointing Dalek Khan as leader and capturing Sec and the Doctor. The Doctor was able to escape at the last moment, but Sec was left at the mercy of the Daleks, who locked him in chains after declaring that he had told them to imagine, and they had imagined his irrelevance. As Sec looked on helplessly, the Gamma Strike hit the Empire State Building antenna, and the Dalek army was awakened and armed. Dalek Khan was then linked via a battle computer to every Dalek unit, giving the 3 remaining Daleks a huge army with which they intended to conquer the whole of Manhattan and convert the population into Daleks. Unknown to both Sec and the cult, the Doctor had interfered with their plans, placing himself between the Gamma Strike and the Lightning Conductor in order to mix his own DNA with that of the new army. The Doctor summoned the cult with the sonic pulse, and Sec was brought with the cult members to confront the Doctor. The cult wished Sec to witness the Doctor's extermination, but he declared that if they continued to choose death and destruction, then death and destruction would choose them. Sec pleaded with the cult to see reason, but they refused to listen, and so as a last-ditch effort, Sec sacrificed himself by getting in the way of Dalek Faye's blast, saving the Doctor by ensuring his own agonizing extermination. The Doctor was enraged by the death of Dalek Sec, who he had previously declared to be the cleverest Dalek ever, and used his death to illustrate to the Dalek hybrids how ruthless the Daleks really were. This caused one of the Dalek hybrids to begin questioning, just as Sec had done before, leading him to be killed by Dalek Faye. This prompted the rest of the Dalek hybrids to attack the cult members, killing Daleks Faye and Jast. The Doctor reassured the hybrids that they were now free, but the last surviving cult member, Dalek Khan, shattered that hope by remotely terminating every single hybrid soldier, committing genocide and wiping out the new species of Daleks that the cult had created. And this is where the tragedy of Dalek Sec becomes clear. The only Dalek to attempt to break free of Davros' conditioning and lead the Daleks out of the darkness, Sec underwent several significant transformations. First from a standard Dalek into a Dalek who could imagine, then from a stalwart believer in the Dalek cause to a Dalek who had lost all faith in his species' ability to survive, then from a Dalek into a human Dalek hybrid, and then from a pragmatic warmonger to a pacifist who understood the value of mercy and courage. Truly, Sec had come further than any other Dalek had done, and came extremely close to saving the Daleks from their recursive fate of total destruction.
My Daleks, just understand this. If you choose death and destruction, then death and destruction will choose you.
Sadly, the hubris of the Daleks doomed Sec, both in terms of the other cult members' dogmatic betrayal of him, and also in terms of his own Dalek arrogance. Despite his good intentions, the Dalek Sec hybrid was not without fault, and his disregard for the lives of both the pig slaves and the humans he had kidnapped to use for his experiment meant that the Doctor never truly trusted him, a fact that is reflected in a deleted scene from Evolution of the Daleks.
Listen to him.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Dalek Sec, forgive me, but how many worlds have suffered like you? How many victims? How many millions have wept in front of the Daleks and been shown no mercy just like you are now?
I know. Don't you see, I know.
In the end, the same Dalek arrogance that doomed Daleks Thay and Jast also in a way doomed Dalek Sec. He blindly assumed that his fellow cult members would follow him, despite the fact that he was going against everything the Daleks stand for. He should really have seen their betrayal coming, and the fact that he didn't ultimately ensured not only his own downfall but also the corruption and later destruction of the race that he had worked so hard to create. Despite this, it is not difficult to pity Sec in the end. Despite the fact that he was once a ruthless Dalek commander who ordered the deaths of millions, he underwent a significant change and ultimately became a better person as a result of his hybridization.
Our purpose is wrong. Where has our quest for supremacy led us? If we do not change now,
then we deserve extinction.
The whole was greater than the sum of its parts. Both Sec and Diagoras were once ruthless warriors, but the fusion of the two of them became a pacifist. A brand new life form filled with potential, so many ideas, and yet his life was cut short before he could even get a chance to feel sunlight on his skin. That is the true tragedy of Dalek Sec. Thanks to Dalek intolerance and unwillingness to change, Sec and his new hybrid species were slaughtered, and the Daleks ultimately sowed the seeds for their own destruction as well. Because the ultimate irony is that, after escaping from Manhattan via an emergency temporal shift, Dalek Khan went on to follow in the footsteps of Dalek Sec, as his journey into the Time War caused him to see the destruction that the Daleks had wrought throughout time and space, causing him to reach the conclusion that they must be destroyed. Though the legacy of Dalek Sec and the Cult of Skaro as a whole may be one of failure, their story proves that there is a tiny glimmer of potential for change within the Daleks, and that the right turn of events at the right time could alter their destiny forever.
The deaths were wrong.
Sorry?
What do you think of Dalek Sec? Do you wish that the hybrid had survived? What's your favourite Dalek Sec line? Do you want to see Dalek Sec appear in Big Finish's Time War series? And do you think that Dalek Sec could have saved the Daleks if the events of Evolution of the Daleks had played out differently? Let me know in the comments below.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to
Dalek Bumps.